Let's take a look at how to create an open web truss joist, all wood, in AutoCAD Architecture. On the screen before me, I have a sketch, 2D sketch that I've outlined to make the process of creating this open web truss joist easier. Easier to understand, and then also easier to draw or model out. Now I'm going to use a structural member to create this truss joist, but the structural member will need components within it that have to be done as blocks so that it will act as a truss joist, or at least appear as a truss joist. So to verify here that it's just a sketch, I'll just go into 3D here to show that this is just the line work that I've done to make it easier to discuss and to model the truss joist. So what I have here is a 14-inch truss joist, 14 out to out. These are all 2x4s, and I've kind of mocked up the first member here. This one will only be 14 inches centered to the center line here where it connects to the next brace member. And the repeating part will be 24 inches on center. Now you can go online and find the specifications for all different types of truss joists, or if you're working with a structural engineer, you could probably get the information from them. Or if it's just more graphic in nature and you're not that concerned about the accuracy of your center line, then you can just look at what I've done here and use your own center line work. Because of the way the structural members work, you'll see here, I would consider this type of solution graphic in nature anyway. And for the solutions we provide at Archidyme regarding structural work like this, we call them graphic trusses because they're not mathematically dead on. And that's due to some scaling stuff that I'll get into. So now that I've mocked this out, what's important here are these center lines. And I'm going to go ahead and load a structural member profile. So if you go to Manage, so if you're on Home and you go to Manage, you can go down to where it says Style and Display. Go down and you'll see here the structural member catalog. And work your way through here in the wood area. So I'm going to go to Timber, and let's see, we'll go down Lumber and Nominal Lumber, and then I'm just going to grab a 2x4 profile here. Now if you want to make sure that this is a 2x4 profile that is specifically for your trusses, you might want to add something like 2x4 truss or something, in case you just want to recognize that it's unique from the use anywhere else. Otherwise, I just typically would just bring it in as 2x4. But I'll go ahead and do that just to demonstrate you can do that. And I'll close this up. And now I'm just going to type in brace add and go over here on my properties palette and set it to my 2x4. And I'm going to use middle center. And I'm going to run down here in the lower right hand corner. I'm going to lock my Z to 0 so that I'm basically, whatever I'm creating, this will read as the middle center of the object. I'm also going to make sure I don't have selection cycling on. It gets in the way of doing this work. And on object, I'm going to go ahead and say no over here. And middle center, yeah, that looks good. So now I'm just going to snap from here down to this point. Enter, enter. And snap from here to here. Okay, so those are the only two that I need. I don't need this one here because that's just going to be a mirror of this one. So these are the only two that are unique. Now I do need one other member, and it's up to you what you want to call that member, but this would be the end post. If I go into 3D and I go ahead and I type in column add, I can bring in, I would think of that as a column myself, and I'll just pop that column in here and enter. Then I'm going to flip my UCS a couple of times here, and I'm going to go ahead and rotate that to match this line work. So let's see, my lock Z is now in the way, so I'm going to undo the lock on the Z and rotate it into place. And I'm going to pop this down into this corner. And I want to keep everything centered, so I'm going to bring this up to the center here, and then make this thing go right to here. Right, so it's not 14. It's what is it? It's 14 inches. I wrote it here, 1 foot, ½ inch tall because of the. We'll take a look at this in plan. Okay, so it's only. Oh, and I didn't get this locked into place. I'm going to put the Z back on here, and I snapped this into the wrong location there, and that makes this probably a little too tall. So let's bring that down to here. There we go. All right, and before we go any further, you probably want to take a look at that and make sure that those are all centered on your line work. All right, looks good. So go back, and what we need to do now is clean up these members so they don't run past each other like this. So I'll go ahead and pick on this first one here. I'll do a right click and I'll go to Trim Planes. I'll say Edit Trim Planes, and I'll go up to the left-hand corner. There's a little plus symbol here. I'm going to pick on that. And I'm going to drag, there's 2 icons here, or 2 little grip marks. I want the one that moves it, not the offset one, so just make sure you get that. And then bring that down to where you want to locate it. And make sure, again, down here that you've got your Z locked on. And I'm going to go ahead and bring it to right here. And then I'm going to bring the rotation to right here. So now I've trimmed that structural member horizontally. I'm going to hit the plus symbol again. I'm going to move it down to this location here, and I'm going to rotate the cursor or the trim plane rotation there. So that's all nice and clean. And you might want to zoom in and make sure you've done a good job. It's very easy to get a slightly off angle or slightly off position, and it's not a perfect cut. So I make that mistake all the time. On the other end down here, I'll go ahead and select and do it again. Edit the trim planes. I'm going to move this trim plane up to, let's see, where do I want it? I want it here, and I want to go ahead and just snap over to here. So I'm going to use a nearest, and I'm going to do this again, plus, and I'm going to bring that up to this line here, and I'm going to go ahead and snap down to here. All right, so that one's taken care of. Now we go to the other member, and I do the right click, edit trim planes, pop in a trim plane to right here, and go ahead and snap this down to this line. That's why I have all this extra line work. It gives me things to snap to. Another plus, bring this up, pop it into here, and then snap it over. This one I'm going to use an NEA for nearest. Okay, so that's looking good. Now I just got to finish this off at the top. All right, we'll go ahead and do this again, and pop this down to, let's see, right about here, and bring this up to here. All right, so there I did it wrong. You can see the member, so I rotated it to the wrong location. So I'm going to bring that over here. There we go. And then I'm going to put a little plus on this and bring that down to right here, and then bring this down to here. Okay, so I'm all done now. What I want to do is I want this member here. I want it mirrored. So I'm going to do a mirror. I'm going to bring that over there and make sure that all lines up. All right. So these two are going to be the repeating members. This is going to be an end member. This one is unique by the dimensions, by the manufacturer that I looked up. And then these will be the repeating parts. So this will be one block, and this will be another block, and this will be yet another block. Okay, so 1, 2, 3 blocks to make this truss. All right, so let's go ahead and make the blocks. So I'll type in B for block, and I'm going to go ahead and you should probably come up with some good names, but I'll just go truss, and I'll go, this is truss 14, and I'll say end post. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and pick points. And make sure this is still locked so that I'm getting the bottom middle here of that member. I'm going to pick the outside corner. You could pick other locations, but that one's easier for me to keep track of. I'm going to go ahead and select. Okay, and just make sure I've got inches, scale uniformly. That's fine. Doesn't really matter here. That's all good. I'm checking my Z. That's important. That looks good. And then I'll do a B for block, and I'll just steal this name, 14. So I'm going to say end, brace. Now for this one, I'm going to use this inside corner because it lines up with this part here. Now I could go from out here, but this is going to work well for the mirroring. So I'm going to pick this inside corner, and I'm going to go ahead and select objects and look at all of my numbers and my 0. Okay, looks good. And then finally, I'm going to do the last one here. So I'm going to steal this name off of here. This is the end post. Oh, not post. I want the brace. So I'm going to call this one, oops, I do want brace, but I'm going to call this one middle. And what I'm going to do is pick, let's see, I'm going to pick this spot right here where it butts up against the first and the last one. And I'm going to select this and enter, and check my numbers again, and OK. All right, so I have all my blocks, and they're looking good. Hopefully everything, you can check where your grip point is. See here, the grip is there, so it's it's centered up on that that member. So now I'm gonna build the open web truss, and I'm gonna go. Let's see. We can go up here. I'm just going to type in member style, and I'll resize this window here so we can see it better. And I'm going to go ahead and say new, and I'm going to say truss. I might say how about open web wood 2x4. That's also indicated it's 14 inches high. That would be good. And maybe you're going to do different versions of this, so this might be type A, right? You should be pretty specific if you're going to end up making a bunch of these. So I'll double click on that. And then coming in here on the design rules tab is where we're going to do all our work. So let me size this over and bring this over here so we can see the other side. And let's just do a little resizing here. Like that. Okay, so we want to see both sides here. So I want that 2x4. Oops, here we go. Okay, and I'm going to call this one top chord. All right. And let's do the bottom chord, so I'll just copy that and rename this over here. Bottom. Okay. Now, we probably want to think in terms of from bottom up. I'm not sure if the logic works that way for you, but you can think of it. I'm going to pull this over a little bit here. I'm just going to think from the bottom up. It's easier for my brain to think from bottom up. So I want to set the top chord a certain distance up from the bottom chord, and that's going to occur on the y-axis. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to push it up. I know I want it 14, but it's minus it's minus half of the bottom chord's thickness and the top chord thickness. So that's what is that? 0.75, 0.75, 3/4, 3/4, 1.5. Take that out, you get 12.5 inches. So 12.5. Okay. So what we're seeing here is we're seeing two 2x4 members, where one is at the start and the end 1.5 inches above the other through the center line of both, because those profiles, if we go back here, let's see, 2x4, it's that profile. If you were to look it up, see how it says section, it was brought in automatically. The profile was designed from the center point, so that's why I'm talking about the center point of these. I'm not going to do any more to confuse you. I would stop here, apply, OK, and actually draw what you've created to verify that it's working. So this is going to be a beam. So I'm adding a beam, and it's going to be my truss. And notice it's drawing it sideways. I don't want that, so let's bring it in, and let's do it 90 degrees. There we go. And now I'm going to go ahead and draw that truss across the screen. All right, so there it is. Let's confirm that the height is 14. So I'm going to undo my little lock and Z. I don't need that anymore. I'm going to take a distance from here to here and make sure down here it's 14 inches. Good. So that work was done. And we'll pick on it. We can see, oh, that's coming through the center line of the bottom chord. All right, so that's good. I think the next logical step would be to put the end posts into the truss. So it's not a truss yet, but we'll get there. So I'm going to go to, I'm going to select it and edit it. And now I'm pretty much done here. I'm going to go down to the display properties. Boy, this is stretched out. Okay, and before we get started, let's put a check mark, an override on all of the relevant displays representations where you want these changes to occur. So they'll occur automatically from, with the work we do in just one. So I want this, okay. I want it on this one, and I want it on a model, and I want it on model high detail. I think those are the only ones. Okay, so now I'm going to jump to other. See, this is where this checkbox in here, that's why I checked those others. So the work we're going to do will automatically be added to those other display representations. Okay, so we're going to go to add. We're going to select block. We're going to find our end post. So here's our end post. We're going to use the start of structural member, and that's all we're going to do. We're going to see, oh, well, I know already because I've done this a number of times, is that it'll read the bottom chord from 0 up. So I do have to push that end post up half the 1.5 inches. So basically 0.75. I have to push it up, and that's on the y-axis. Because structural members don't have the same, structural members have a normal orientation, not the UCS orientation. So we'll go ahead and click OK. And, well, we could check right now and make sure that that's working. So there it is. All right, so this, I pushed it on the Y. If I flip my UCS like this, see the UCS down here? That's how a structural member beam will read its orientation, where Y is up, X is along the axis, and Z is sort of in and out of the plane. All right, so if you can keep that kind of orientation in mind, you'll have no trouble. So we'll go back, and we'll put that end post on the other side. So let's select the end post. Okay, and we still want 0.75. And we want to do it to the end, and we want to mirror it on the x-axis. So that means, well, I'll show you what happens here. So it's going to pop to the outside. Oh, there we go. That's good and mirrored. All right, that's good. All right. Oh, I couldn't remember whether or not I needed to push it in or out when I mirrored it, but it's fine. Okay, so we're getting there. Next, we'll go back. Same place. We're going to add, next we're going to go to the select block. We want the first brace, the end brace. We're going to do it to the start of the member, and now we know we need to push it up 0.75. But we also now will need to push it inward along the x-axis by the thickness of the post, so that's 1.5. And that's it. We should be okay. All right, so there we go. We zoom in, and you can see it's 1.5 over. And I'll just sort of rotate so you can see that it's looking pretty good. All right. All right. Let's add the other end. Now, it's debatable on whether you should go to middle. I mean, sometimes, I think when I make these for clients or customers, I do post, brace, middle, brace, post because of the order, so that it matches the order as you're reading it left to right. But, you know, maybe that's not important. Let's see, let's go add. And I'll add the brace to the other side. So I'm going to go to end, 0.75. I'm going to mirror here, and I'm going to go 1.5 here. And let's see if that works out. All right, yep, that's good. Zoom in, make sure it's good and clean. All right, so now all we got to do, if I stretch this out, we got to put the repeating members. So basically, this is just attaching blocks to a structural member style, and you're not getting really, you know, anything special rather than blocks being attached to something. This is where the interesting stuff comes in. So we'll select it. We'll go back. We'll do an add. Select the block, and now we're going to do the middle brace. Okay, we'll go ahead and use start. We got to push it up 0.75. Let's see here. I think we're good there, but we got to go up here to the repeat mode now. All right, and how far over do I start offsetting it? I believe the number was 1 foot 2, right? 14 inches. That's how far it's starting from the left to the right. There's no space between them, but there is, I think it's minus 1 foot 2 at the end. Okay, and then I have to do a fit. Now, to make these trusses, and this is where I call it a graphic truss, is to really make it useful. I got to use the scale to fit option. You could tinker with the space evenly, but you'll see pretty quickly how it's a difficult tool. You're basically making a tool here. It's difficult to make that work because of the nature of how that block repeats. And I'll demonstrate here. So let's just go and say okay, and hopefully I got everything right. All right, so here we go. It's repeating in here, so if this has been done correctly, as I pull this out, notice it's adding members, but they're scaling. Okay, so it is, and you can't really control how that scaling effect occurs. It's not as sophisticated as, say, a curtain wall. So it's just going to reach a certain point here. I don't know what the math is, where it just adds another one. It is based on the distance here, so it's the length here that it's reading. So that block that we have here, oops, that's not the block. This block here is what defines basically the length that it's fitting these braces into. So once you reach a certain distance, it adds another or subtracts another. It's probably something like a 50% or something. So the reason I call these graphic trusses, if we go to a, let's go to view here, and let's go to, let's say front. What's happening here is it's scaling these members. So they're not staying in profile view here. They're not staying dimensionally correct at 1.5 as you start doing this. You can practically see it here on my screen. They're getting thinner and thicker, right? So to me, that's not science. That's not math. That's graphic. But they sure are useful if you're laying out plans and you want to indicate in your sections or in your 3D views that trusses are going there. They're open web, and maybe you're even showing some mechanical stuff running through them. I'm going to stop here, but you can definitely take this information farther and go and explore how to do, you know, a lower chord that sits in, allowing for some kind of a seat at the top. But all of what I've covered is the basic information that you need to build your own trusses.